So I hydroplane and I run into a house going 90 miles per hour. I'm a licensed psychotherapist that specializes in men's mental health. We don't recognize that these things that are unresolved from our childhood are the things that are causing us to be stuck and get the results that we don't want.
For men, especially black men, if they wanted to get into therapy, how can they start that?
Normally, men start going to therapy when their girl is going to leave them. I think one of the first things that any man should do.
I got to a certain level a couple years ago where I didn't care about her opinion anymore. A piece of me kind of died.
So I had the same experience with my mom. And I'm 23, 24. She was just asking me for money. She was asking me for a loan. She was asking me this. And I'm like, you don't see I'm trying to build a relationship with you here?
Hey guys, we realize a lot of you are coming to the page and enjoying the content, but we see a lot of you still aren't subscribed. And so if you could click that subscribe button, it'll help our channel grow and give you more episodes with a lot of amazing individuals. Yo, welcome back to another episode of Attractive Mindset. Listen, today's guest is an absolute monster. That's why they call him a giant. Listen, he's top tier when it comes to psychology, when it comes to understanding your mindset. And he's actually down here for Men's Mental Health Month. And he's been on panels. He's been doing this thing. And I finally got to meet him in person. I've heard a little bit about his podcast, but I've never got to meet face to face until a panel the other day. Liked what he was saying, understood what he was saying, understood what he was talking about, and very relatable to the entire room. And so we want to welcome Jono the Giant to the podcast.
I appreciate you, my brother, for the magnificent introduction.
Yes,
I appreciate
sir.
that, bro. Yeah.
Absolutely. So for those who don't know, how would you introduce yourself and like what you specialize in?
Essentially, I'm a licensed psychotherapist that specializes in men's mental health. There are a lot of things that us as men, we have buried down from our childhoods, and we don't recognize that the challenges that we're facing, whether it be in relationships, whether it be business, career, parenting, everything in general, just life, we don't recognize that these things that are unresolved from our childhood are the things that are causing us to be stuck and get the results that we don't want.
Facts.
So what I do is essentially go into the emotional mainframe. And the emotional mainframe is within yourself. And as we go within yourself, it gets really dark.
Facts.
It gets really scary. There's certain emotions that come up. So I also help you to manage those emotions, make sense of them. But I think the biggest thing is that I help you not to feel, or let me not say not feel, but let me say I help you not to stay anchored in shame.
Okay. I like that. That's descriptive. And I feel like in general, for one, this category is not talked about often enough. But another point to it is in our community, it's definitely not talked about enough.
For sure.
And so, what we do on Attractive Mindset is we like to really go back and we like to understand how you got to where you are today, because we can look at people's social medias and you'll see who you are now, but they often don't get to understand how you got there and who you are as a person. And so we like to dissect all the, we've had athletes come on this show, NFL people, all type of people come on this show, celebrities, millionaires, multimillionaires, all that. And so we like to take every category of human being and help everybody understand that no matter what you do, you're still human. And so you had to do a lot of things, go through a lot of things in order to get to where you are today. So, take us back a little bit to where you from originally.
I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
But I moved down here with my grandmother when I was around 8 years old, probably like 92, 93. So my story, when you're talking about going back, that's one thing that's one of my main key tools is to go back, because you can't move forward if you don't go backwards.
Facts.
I know a lot of times we think like, oh, let me just move on. That happened. I'm just going to move. You never move forward unless you go backwards. So one thing that I like to do with all my male clients, what I recognize that is very important is if you're a man and you're a business owner and you feel as if you're stuck in what you're doing right now and you want to be able to get unstuck, I advise you to contact me on Instagram, Jono the Giant, where I have a program that helps men get unstuck in their business and their relationships. Relatability and vulnerability. So I go back for myself with them. And I just let them know, like, hey, look, my father abandoned my mother and I in a cold basement of Chicago, Illinois. My mother left me in the hands of my grandparents when she had me. She was supposed to come back for me, but she never did. She just ended up moving to New York, having 5 more kids from 4 different other men.
Wow.
And then from there, when I was about 5 years old, my grandfather passed away of sickle cell anemia. So that left my grandmother to raise me on her own, but not just me, but my uncle and my aunt, who are both autistic. Uncle can't read, can't write, can't speak to this day. My aunt, all she can do was hold a bagging job at Publix. She couldn't read, she couldn't write, but she could speak. But that's about it. So now this situation caused a great amount of stress on my grandmother. My grandmother was depressed. I never remember a time when my grandmother was not depressed because she was alone. And she had a young boy, and then she had 2 autistic adult children. So now, me as a kid, I don't understand what's going on because, as a kid, your worldview is so small because you have no life experience. There's only 2 things I could think about in that time. One, that I'm not lovable, because if I was, why would my mother and my father just abandon me like that? 2, my grandmother doesn't love me because why would she neglect me the way that she's neglecting me? Going to school with holes in my shoes and wearing the same pants, like 2-3 pants, just changing them out every week or so, like not being taken care of financially. But not only that, I'm not being taken care of emotionally neither. My emotional needs were not met. And for a lot of men, we don't recognize that our emotional needs a lot of times are not met, and we don't even recognize that. And that brings about challenges in our relationships across the board. So I go through my story with the men that I work with. And the reason why I do that is because I feel like it's very important to be able to create that connection. Because let's be real, when you're growing up as a young Black boy, depending on where you grow up, I grew up in North Miami. It's one of the rougher parts of Miami. When you grow up in an environment like that and you grow to the schools that you go to, you have to put up the persona that nothing is wrong with you. And the way you do that is you block connection with the other young boys around you. You do that by bullying, by teasing, or if you were bullied or teased, right? It goes both ways. So I understand and I recognize that when another man comes to me for therapy, when he comes to me for mental health coaching, I already know internally that there's an automatic resistance based off of the relationship that he has with other men. And that was forged and that was built back then when you're a young little boy. So the power of vulnerability, the power of relatability, the power of transparency helps bridge that gap, because now I disarmed him. And now we can actually start moving forward and building trust. So the thing is, it's not just them building trust with me. It's I'm teaching them, bro, you can have trust with other men too. That's what I'm doing.
No, that's super powerful. And just even hearing that story of like, having to deal with that from a parental kind of figure and then a guardian kind of figure as well. When you moved to Miami, exactly how did life change, in order for you to understand, like, I got to get out of these environments. I got to get out of this cycle.
Yeah, man, life changed for me drastically because when we were in Chicago, I had a community. And in that community, I did feel accepted. I felt loved. But my grandmother moving us down to Miami removed me from that community. So now I'm in a different type of community when it comes to the neighborhood, where it comes to the churches that we were going to growing up. And what people don't recognize is that when there is not a man present in the home, that woman is like sheep to wolves. Not only is that woman sheep to wolves, but her little lambs are lambs to the wolves too. So I became the scapegoat. Now, what a lot of people didn't recognize, when I say people, the adults, was I experienced ACEs. It's called adverse childhood experiences, where you experience these traumas in your childhood that really impact your mental and your emotional development. So my father and mother not being there, that's abandonment. That's one ACE. Then my grandfather passing away, that's another form of abandonment. Even though it wasn't his fault, it's a form of abandonment. That's another ACE. My grandmother going through depression, neglecting me severely, that's another ACE. Then growing up in a home with mentally ill people, that's another ACE. Now, another ACE is financial instability. So all of these things compounding creates something inside myself that makes me lash out, that makes me angry, that makes me get into a lot of trouble. Like I remember one time when I was in middle school, I literally got suspended for 2 weeks, came back one day, got suspended for another 2 weeks. I was just completely unhinged. So now in the community that I'm in, all they can see is what they see. Oh, he's a bad kid. Not recognizing and not realizing that the home that I'm growing up in, the things that I've experienced in my family have caused me to act out this way. But no one can see that. So now because no one can see that and they just say, oh, I'm the bad kid, what happens is now compassion is extracted. I'm not experiencing any sort of compassion, any sort of empathy. That makes me even angrier. Right? So my grandmother, and of course, now I understand it. She was doing the best that she could. But her moving us from Chicago here, removing me from that community, it caused a ripple effect of me not being able to not just have the things that I need to have, but not having the understanding community that I needed for my development.
Wow. Okay. And so once you move out here and you're dealing with a home with, other individuals with mental health issues, your grandmother being depressed, you start to go through the grades, middle school, high school, right as you're finishing high school, do you go directly to college or what is your path from there?
Oh, that's a great question. I dropped out of high school. See, and that's the thing. So I don't remember the exact statistics, but they say when a child experiences 4 or more ACEs, you're like 6 times more likely to drop out of high school. So by the time I got to 10th grade, I was completely checked out.
Damn.
Completely checked out. I was literally going with emotions. And as I can think back now, I was depressed. I was in a serious daze, a serious fog, until one day I said, you know what? Man, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm just not going to go to school anymore.
And so with you thinking like that, did you have a friend group? Or did you have, or were you more so isolated?
I did have a friend group, but I had 2 friends groups. So there was one friend group that I had at church, and there was one friend group that I had in the neighborhood. Majority of my friend group in the neighborhood, all of us were dropping out. So that's what, it's just easier for me to drop out. And then my friend groups at church, they didn't really know what was going on for real. Because there was a shame there. I didn't really want to tell them what was going on. And even if I did, we're kids. What they gonna say? So yeah, I didn't have any type of guidance, any type of support. And I remember one time I made like this last ditch effort because I didn't want to go to the high school that I was going to because, I was involved in different things with different kids and, you fighting, you fight this person, your friend fight them and all this, teenage stuff, like boy stuff. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to go to that high school because I knew there was a possibility it would carry on. Mm. And in my heart of hearts, I was really trying to change. I was like, yo, I'm getting out of this school, this middle school. I really want to start over. So I was trying to go to a school down in South Miami, Coral Gables. And I was telling my grandmother, like, hey, yo, I want to go to the school. But again, she didn't have the emotional capacity, nor was she connected to me enough to recognize that I needed her to step up to get me out of this environment. Mm. She just didn't have the understanding. She didn't have the awareness at all. So what I did was, with a couple of my friends, we took the train to that school. And I was talking to the people trying to get into the school. And they were like, no, you got to do this and do that. Do you have good enough grades to be in the magnet program? I didn't have those grades. I barely got out of the middle school.
Yeah.
So I felt stuck. And majority of my life, when I was a kid, a teenager, that's how I felt. I'm like, man, there's no adult here to help me to navigate through this. I'm trying to do better, but it's like there was no one there. So at that point, I started a couple of months, I went through 10th grade, and then I went to summer school for a little bit, but I just dropped out of summer school, started the 11th grade for like a month, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. I just had no motivation.
So once you drop out now, what does your grandmother say? And then what is your course of action on life?
So my grandmother was begging me to go back. And I was just like, no, I'm not going back. She even went to the school that I dropped out of to see if they would take me back. They said, yeah, I'll definitely take them back. But I was like, I'm not going back to school. So there's really nothing she could really do per se. Because at this point, I'm like 6'3".
Yeah.
And she's like barely 5 feet. Ain't nothing she can really say or do. And at this point, I do feel like that season was very important for me because this is when I developed my love for music. So I would just be in my room and I would just be writing. I would buy different tracks and beats from different people in the neighborhood and I would just make music. I would just write. I have boys come, we'll just make songs.
What kind of music?
Hip hop. Okay. Yeah. So that was it was very therapeutic for me to do that. And that was all I was focused on at that time. And on the weekends, you go outside, you play sports, but that was it.
What was one of your favorite bars?
I would say that one of my current songs is called Elevation. So I say, elevation, my frequency is high. What was it? Elevation, my frequency is high. The laws of physics, my frequency defies. Yeah, that's one of my favorite bars there. So for me, making music, and I remember back at that time, I didn't recognize what I was doing, but I was really affirming myself through the music. And I recognized that over time, making the music, I was able to lift myself out of that situation. So eventually I did go back to school, even though I didn't do it the right way. I went back to school. My grandmother got me to go back to school. And the way she did it is by buying me a car.
Oh, damn.
So she bought me a car. So I went to this alternative school because I was still trying to graduate my class. But one day driving to the school, I got into a little fender bender with someone. And when I got into this fender bender, I was like, oh, crap, I don't have car insurance. So at the age of, I think I was 18 at the time. I just turned 18. I didn't know anything about car insurance or what could happen. I just thought, oh, man, I'm going to go to jail. So what I did, I fled the scene. And then I fled the scene. The guy starts chasing me. So we were driving, going 80, 90 miles per hour in the neighborhood. And it was in my neighborhood that I grew up in as well. And the next thing you know, I hear sirens.
Oh shit.
So he called police while he was chasing me. I was like, oh fuck. So like I said, it's my neighborhood. So there was this like dead end road where there was a guardrail, but there was like a palm tree right next to the guardrail. But I knew visually that I could fit my car through there.
Yeah.
I was just hoping that he wouldn't be able to fit his car through there. So my plan was to fit my car through there, go through the field, and then go to my friend's house and park the car there. So the police, I hear the sirens, but they're not there yet. I can't see them, but I can hear them. So I get to that field, I cut through cleanly, and then he crashes his car into the guardrail. So as I cut through cleanly, I'm trying to turn into the field. I can't turn because I'm going about 90 miles per hour. It's like 8 a.m. There's dew on the grass. So I hydroplane and I run into a house going 90 miles per hour.
Oh, shit.
Yes. So it doesn't stop there. It don't stop there. I get out the car and I'm like, I don't remember if I had a seatbelt on or not. But I got out the car. I was like, oh, man. I was just like, yo, what the hell did I do? And then now I could start to see the lights, the police lights getting closer. So like I said, I was cutting through the field to get to my friend's house. So then now I'm like, you know what? Let me just run there on foot. So I go there on foot and then I get to the door. And like I said, all of us dropped out of school. So they all there. And then I just bust into the house and I just fall on the floor wailing, just crying like, oh my God, I don't know what I just did, this and that and that. And they were like, yo, just chill. We're going to say that somebody stole the car. We're going to say that wasn't you. Whatever. But there was something inside of me that said, yo, just go back to the scene. Like, don't even make it worse. So I go back to the scene. My boys go with me. By this time, I see the police there. Like, they done took all my books out the car. Everything. And I go next to the car. I sit down on the floor. And one of the officers says, are you Jonathan Gustave? I say, yes, that's me. And then he asks you, oh, like, why did you leave the scene? And I'm like, well, because I didn't know what to do. And then the other cop asked me, so why did you come back? I said, because I didn't want to run anymore. And, you know, that moment in time for me was a tipping point in my life because I didn't recognize what I was saying. And what I was really saying was, I'm tired of running away from the pain of my childhood. I'm tired of running away from feeling abandoned, feeling less than, feeling inadequate because my parents weren't there. I got to deal with this. I got to face it. And it's not until I was going through therapy and things of that nature, that's when I recognized that moment symbolized the shift in my life.
Yeah.
So the thing what I like to tell people is, yeah, I went to school for this. Yeah, I got my master's in this. But this is who I am. This is what I do. It's who I am. So that's why I'm able to help other men the way I help them. Because I embody this. I do the work. So, yeah, I went back to school-ish. But after that, I crashed my car. I stopped going to school again. But then I eventually went into this program where it was like a homeschool program and you can get your degree or get your diploma. But I just made somebody do the work for me.
But wait, what happened once you went back to the scene?
Yeah. So they gave me a chance. They was like, we're not going to arrest you. We're just going to give you the tickets. And you got to explain to these people why a car is lodged up in their house. And you got to work something out with them.
Yeah, those are definitely different times. You do that in 2025.
Bruh.
You dealing with completely different police consequences,
yeah, man.
fines, everything.
Man, God was on my side that day, boy. He was on my side that day, cause boy.
Oh man, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, but it is moments like that, whether people believe it or not, that do happen in your life that you can't explain to other people, and that's nothing but like divine intervention.
Yeah.
Because, some people that have tried to commit suicide couldn't go through with it,
Mm-hmm.
when they actually did things to actually do it. You know, some people end up in situations. You see newspaper articles of a mom kid stuck under the car. She's lifting the car. Like, you know, there's a lot of things that happen in our lives that are really hard to explain. And when you start to explain it to other people that don't have the same perspective as you, they're like, man, Captain. All right. You know, they try to take it with a little grain of salt as if it really didn't happen, or downplay, you know, the entirety of the situation. But damn, okay. So you left school for a little more. You had to obviously pay off all of that stuff and everything.
But let me tell you something about that. You know, I just finished paying that off like last year.
Oh, damn.
Bro, I was 18 years old. Like that was before the year's over. So you do the math. I was like 22 years, 21 years.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, now I bet you got a little extra money though.
Yeah.
Damn. But that's like, you know, it just goes to show how when you're young, and even some of the decisions and some of the things that they allow these young kids to have access to, like smoking cigarettes or, you know, alcohol at 21.
Yeah.
You know, like we're still kids, and you're prone to do dumb shit, and a lot of it at that. And when it comes to other situational things as well, like there's no age limit barriers on it or whatnot, but there's mistakes that we've made a long time ago, because even right now I'm dealing with one of them. I'm dealing with a whole lawsuit from some shit I did in 2017, and it's 2025, you know, and it went away, but it only went away because I didn't deal with it. And then, you know, when I think life is going great, it came right back in my face. Hey, back in court. And it was like, oh man, you know, like, and you know, when you get older and you're an adult, you start thinking clearer, because just because you're an adult don't mean you think the way you should.
Yeah, for sure. Facts.
But, you know, for some that start to think differently, you know, you reflect on a lot of these instances, and, you know, it turns into a period of, this is where true wisdom comes from.
Exactly. Because
a lot of people like, oh, you don't regret doing this or this and that. And it's like, you know, it was fucked up shit that I went through, but I'm not mad at it anymore.
No, you're right. It's so true, because here's one thing I like to teach my clients is that mistakes are currency. Because there's so many gems, so many life-altering gems that you can get from making mistakes if you don't skirt it. Yeah. Like you sit in it and you recognize, okay, I did this because of X, Y, and Z. I made this decision because I wanted this. I made this decision because I'm really focused on what other people think. Yeah. I made this decision because there's an inadequacy inside myself that I thought if I made this decision, it would take it away. But at the end of the day, it didn't. But when you are, or shall I say, when you have a poor relationship with mistakes, you can't sit with it and get those gems.
No, 100%. You're like the perfect person I want to ask this question. So, you know, I've had debates with a couple people on here, because some of them would say, you know, because of the situation that they're in now, they would be like, my kids will never deal with what I dealt with. And I say, okay, I understand that and I get it. But do you really think that character development is going to be at the level that it needs to be, especially when they don't have you around anymore? And, you know, they would still battle it. And one person said something very particular. He said, you know, I don't want my kids undergoing trauma. And I said, I understand that for the logical definition of trauma, but I then rebutted with, I do want my kids to go through a version of trauma. I don't want them to go through the trauma of abuse or neglect or, you know, the things that are even crazier. I said, but I do want them to develop a sort of situation that alters their life.
Yeah.
In not a so good way.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, it's this cycle or this quote that I was introduced to a long time ago where it was like, tough times create tough men, tough men create good times create weak men, and then weak men create tough times again.
It's true.
And it's a repetitive cycle, because if you have the life that you set for them so good, so well, the moment they go outside to the wild, wild west, and there's adversity, there's not much they can do but fold almost.
Yeah. I understand that mindset in terms of not wanting your kids to go through trauma. But I think, and I strongly believe, I strongly believe that comes from a place of pain and your own unresolved issues. So what we do is, as parents, because I'm a parent, I have a 9-year-old son and 10-year-old daughter. So it's easy to try to create this bubble for them of perfection where they don't experience the things that you experienced. Now, they're probably not going to experience the things you experience, but they're going to have some sort of version of it for themselves.
Yeah.
But we live in totally different times. We're a whole lot more aware. Like, now we're more financially stable as Black people. It's just, things are better for us in that sense. But you're not going to stave off trauma. Like, you're not with your kids all the time. When they go to school, when they get teased, when they get bullied, that's trauma too. Now we got the internet, all these different things, social media, you're being exposed to certain things. Like, kids are being exposed to pornography much earlier. That's a trauma.
Yeah.
So there's really, you can't create this world where they're not going to experience anything. But what I try to explain to parents is you're focusing on the wrong thing. You have to realize that this is real life. Things are going to happen. They will happen. Are you emotionally equipped enough? Do you have emotional capacity? Do you have emotional presence for when the things do happen, you can guide your kid through it? That's really the most important thing. Because again, this is real life. Things are going to happen. Do you have a good enough relationship with your kids? Have you made enough emotional deposits with them so that when something does happen, they feel comfortable enough to come to you to speak to you about it? That's really the thing that we really need to be focusing on, not trying to create an environment where nothing happens to them.
Yeah.
Because you're lying to yourself. That's denial. Things are going to happen.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's all about, one, the relationship with yourself. Have you built yourself up enough to be emotionally present, emotionally aware of your own feelings, your own issues? Now, when you're in that space, then it comes to the relationship with your kids. Now you can give them what you have emotionally. You can guide them through. Now you can say, oh yeah, that happened to me, so on and so forth. Like, I always have conversations with my son on that. You're like, oh yeah, I felt this way now. I say, yeah, I used to feel like that all the time. He looked at me like, what? Are you serious? Because he's 9 and I'm an adult and I'm his father. He sees me as this impenetrable figure. I'm his superhero. And that's good. But a big part of being a parent as well is showing them that, hey, I felt this way too. I've made that mistake as well. To normalize it for them so they can not feel a shame associated with whatever happened with them.
Yeah.
So that now this is the thing that really builds resilience. That relationship with them that you have, because now you're actually guiding them through it. But to think that you're going to create this environment that nothing's going to happen to them, yeah, that's very unrealistic.
No, 100%. And you said like a mega gem in there, which is the ability to, develop trust with your kids. And, I forget which show I was watching. It was definitely like a podcast. I don't remember which one, but it was a father. And he said, the child that learns to speak freely becomes the adult that understands communication. And he says, often as parents, we don't want to hear the bad things that our kids do or what they deal with, or we try to shut them up or put them in a corner.
Yeah.
And he says that just keeps the feelings tucked away.
Very
They
true.
don't want to tell you things. They don't want to communicate with you. They try to hide things from you, and it basically, I can remember that exact situation where I would say, some people can see it as a pure positive. Some people can see it as a negative. Some people can see it as both, because life is duality as well.
Very, very much so.
You're going to have light and dark, period. Mm-hmm. And, with my mom, she was very religious, 7-day Adventist, the whole family on that side. And I was a lot more free thinking, and I challenged everything.
That's crazy. I grew up 7-day Adventist too.
Yeah, it's wild. No,
yes,
no
is,
earrings,
bro.
no certain things to eat, no tattoos, no nothing.
Yep.
And the environment that I'm in New York, Brooklyn, and so we're in the hood, and I'm contained or subjected to this entire environment around me. Yet inside, I'm told to be one way, or be this kind of human, or be this person. And the people that I see probably more than my family are not that. And so I see that lifestyle. I see all these things going on. I see the ultra fly kicks and the style and the clothes and the girls and all of that. And I'm like, I start to challenge things. And, one thing that my mom did really well was I would get in trouble, but she would be like, tell me. I want to know. I want to know everything. And, I remember going to like this little party at night somewhere or whatever. And I remember something happening at the party, and everybody was scrambling because, we had to all leave the scene, and they didn't know how to get home. We're kids. Nobody had cars yet. And I'm on the phone. They're like, who you talking to? I'm like, I'm calling my mom. And they're like, it's like 1 a.m. And everybody was sleeping at the other person's house. And so it was one of those things where it's like, oh, well, I can't tell my mom, or they think I'm over here, or they think I'm over here. I'm like, I'm calling my mom, bro. I'm going to get in trouble for it, but she finna come get me. Like, I'm out of here. And I did get in trouble for it. And so what that made me grow up understanding was, and again, this could be positive or negative, was it's not bad to get in trouble, but what it is bad is to run away from your consequences. And it taught me a level of accountability that even if I did something fucked up, I had to be accountable for it.
Yeah.
And so when I started getting into fights, I started doing things with reason. I didn't do it just to do it anymore, because sometimes I could hide it. Sometimes I can get away with things.
Yeah.
But I started to do things with reason, and I started to do things with illogical logic, where I would still be doing hood shit, but I would be a conscious hood guy.
Yo, I used to do the same thing. It's like, the line not to cross.
100%.
I see everybody cross. I say, yeah, y'all boys tripping.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go there.
I'm not going that far.
Yeah.
Yep, I know exactly what you mean. Yep.
Yeah, and where that backfired on me though was when I was no longer the only one. So on her side of the family, it's only me and her and my stepfather. But on my dad's side, we got like 17 brothers and sisters. He was out there, different moms, all of that stuff. And so his side's more wild, Jamaican, Trinidadian, turn up, party. We go to the park as brothers because she let me visit him every summer. Go fight the park, do all of this stuff. He would be like, if you come home and you get your ass beat, you're getting beat again. Like all that type of, like, he wasn't in the military, but very disciplined. We had to clean the same spot of the house every day for the summer, like all of that stuff. And, with her, she started to lose grip of me, but she didn't fight it. And when she had my twin little sisters with my stepfather, I had just got in trouble in school and actually ended up getting expelled in 11th grade. And I came home and I told her about it. Cause I mean, she's gonna find out anyway.
For real, yeah.
I told her about it, and she was super calm. She said, "Okay," and I was like, "My stepfather not finna beat my ass. Like, that's it." I was expecting to get some things taken away or whatever, because old punishments that she would do, she never beat me, but my stepfather beat me, and then she would tell my dad, and my dad beat me. She would make me read books. And she would make me practice cursive. And she would make me do the things that she wanted to do in her childhood, which she never really got to do because she was a singer. And she raised me as a singer. And so I developed a love for music that I didn't originally have. It wasn't my passion. And she submitted me to things that would embarrass me because I was out in the hood with my friends. And she put me on Lion King on Broadway. She put me in Oliver Twist. She put me in Little Shop of Horrors. She put me in all of these things that were like, you got to smile at the camera and wave. And, my hood friends are like, you're doing what? Like, and I would never, want them to see it or anything. And I'm like, man, so it felt like real punishment. And it actually stopped me from doing a lot of things. But then something weird happened where I started to like the punishment a little bit. And so now I felt like a conflicted human being because I got these two sides of me. Like, I'm really rough around the edges and I fight a lot and do all of this shit. But then I'm doing fucking commercials and Broadway shit and singing, Simba and all of this. I'm like, this is wild. But it taught me how to maneuver myself in life, be in both rooms, understand both sides of the fence. She never listened to hip hop or rap or anything like that. She listened to pop. She listened to R&B. She listened to the Broadway shit. She listened to all of that stuff. And, my stepfather was a little different where I got beat up outside and got my Halloween candy taken, came home crying, and he was like, he lifted my chin up. He was like, are you dead? And I didn't know how to take it at that time. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, they just wanted to check your jaw strength. And he was the one that started my villain era. You were the one and his last name is Gustave too. Godfrey Gustave. Yep. You were the one that started my villain era. Because the moment he told me that, every time I got into a fight, I just wanted to check their jaw strength. I ain't kill him. I ain't do nothing crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, and he couldn't. He was so mad because of the situation. But I'm like, you told me that. I'm justified. You know what I'm saying? Like, we good. But
that's funny.
Learning. So I said all of that to say, learning these things in this household from both of them. Growing up over time, her starting to see that she doesn't have control over my life.
Yeah.
She had twin little sisters with her. And once I got expelled, she basically came to me and she was like, so what are you going to do? And I was like, what do you mean what I'm going to do? I was like, I go enroll in another school or whatever. I was like, I don't know. They said they can take me back the year after. And she was like, no, we're going to move to Atlanta. What are you going to do with your life? And I got angry in that moment because I'm like, he's going to fucking leave me? Okay, cool. And so I was like, I'm going to do whatever I want. And she did, in fact, let me go do whatever I wanted to.
Wow.
And so I got emancipated. I enrolled into Jamaica High School, Queens, by myself at 17.
Wow.
And I had to go live with my cousin and figure life out. And then life had its own trajectory from there. But, me and her ever since then never had the dynamic of that relationship. When I was younger, she was one of the closest people to me. But as an adult, I don't really know my mom. And so that brings up like different situations and different stuff. And that's, of course, still unresolved trauma to a certain point.
For sure.
Because even when I did get out the military and go to school for psychology and shit, I started saying, okay, cool, I'm going to be the bigger person. I'm going to go mend this relationship. And it is not how that shit worked out.
Bro, I had the same experience with my mom. Same thing. Yep. Because, the thing is, we make the assumption that the information changed us. It just brought awareness. That's all it did. The change really happens within yourself, in your heart, not in your head. So what I like to say, there's a difference between head knowledge and heart knowledge.
Yeah.
You can know something intellectually, but that doesn't mean you know it emotionally. Heart knowledge is the emotion. So now the head knowledge, it does bring awareness to your situation. It does bring awareness to how you may be feeling, how you may be perceiving a situation or a certain person or a certain dynamic. It does bring awareness to that, but that's just literally the first step. Now you have to go in what I call the mainframe, and you have to start really looking at, okay, what are the self-limiting beliefs that came up from my relationship with my mom? Wow, my mom just left me like that. She must not care about me. Wow, my mom, my stepdad had other kids, so now I'm disposable. So there's so many different things, so many different beliefs that can, like a cascade of beliefs that can come up from that situation.
Yeah.
The information is just showing you, something's wrong. But then what you do is you're just trying to run. Oh, okay, I'm going to go talk to my mom. Because like I said, I had a similar situation where when I went to college a little later. So when I went off to college, I was like 23. And I went to Adventist University, matter of fact, Oakwood University in Huntsville, Alabama. And at this time, I hadn't cleaned up my life. I was on a straight and narrow. And I joined this nonprofit group where what we would do was we would go to different cities during their Thanksgiving, Christmas, and spring break to raise funds to go overseas to do missionary work. So I took a year off of school to do that. To my first year of college, I took that whole year off. So I did a semester, and then going into the next year, I just took it off to do that full time. And that year really transformed my life. Like, I've seen so many places. Like, I've been to every major city in California. I've been everywhere on the West Coast. And after that, summer comes. Oh, it was springtime. I went to Haiti. And we did some missionary work there. And that was actually the year that the earthquake hit Haiti back in 2010. And that was my first time actually going to Haiti and being Haitian descent. And that really transformed my life. And from that time, even I was like, you know what? I gotta make amends with my mom. And like you said, it definitely didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, because when I started calling her on the phone, she was just asking me for money. She was asking me for a loan. She was asking me this. And I'm 23, 24. And I'm like, yo, like, you don't see I'm trying to build a relationship with you here? Yeah. You're just asking me for stuff? And that completely shut me off towards her. I'm just like, you know what? It's not even worth it.
So it's interesting that you say exactly that. It's not even worth it, because, the scenario of what ended up happening is she disappeared for the entire hood part of my life. I slept in a trap house for like 2 years, basically. Got taken in by a whole nother family. My friend basically said, either you're going to go to jail or you die if you do the same shit that you're doing right now. And he came to me with the Marine Corps. And he was like, we can get you a $3,000 bonus, but you got to join a combat MOS. And at the time, we're using the vouchers from Buffalo Wild Wings to eat for the day, getting the free fries that they give every Wednesday and Friday. They would give out these free fry vouchers, and we would take like 2-3 of them and go cash it out. And then that would be food if we can get some shit. And so I was like, $3,000?
Right.
I'm sold. Like, what? Show me the money. I said I could get it up front. He was like, yeah, we could work something out. And I said, cool, I'm going to do it then. And so I went to the recruiter office, and I didn't know shit about the military, completely ignorant. Like, I didn't know the military on that level. I just knew like, oh, okay, cool. Those are the soldier guys. I called every one of them soldiers. Like, I didn't know the difference between the branches or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am walking into the Marine Corps office, you know, like, all right, you know, hey, I'm here for the 3 bands, you know? And he's like, oh yeah, cool. Now we got it for you, bro. You know, how you do this? You know, are you fit? You have any broken bones? Nah, I'm good. You know, I made sure that I was going on everything, that they thought I was a model entry person. Yeah. And then I was like, can I go even sooner? And they were like, yeah, we can send you off whenever you want. And so they put me into into like an expedited version of the DEP, delay entry program. And in like a month and a half, I shipped off. And then I got to boot camp. Mm-hmm. And life was different.
I can imagine.
I seen another kid. Something had happened in the barracks, and you know, he was like, "Oh, you're gonna get yelled at. You're gonna get whatever, blah blah." And I was like, "Cool, you know, I'm not mad at that. You know, whatever, cool, discipline. I get you guys are all rah rah whatnot." But we get there, and my drill instructor saw this kid doing something. We were lined up, and the kid talked back. This is day 2. Kid talked back. And he was like, "What the fuck did you just say to me?" And he was like, something. And he was like, "Oh, I bet you know, something with their mom." And he was like, "Your mom raised a little bitch," or some shit. He said something. And the kid was like, he got really emotional because his mom had died. And so he was like, "My mom's dead, sir." And he was like, oh wow. He took his hat off. And I thought it was going to be a heartfelt moment. He took his hat off. He was like, "Wow. Where's she buried?" And then the kid told her, he was like, "I wish I could go to her casket and fuck her." And do like, and he started going crazy, like and you could just see this whole kid's mind just start to crack. And that's when I knew I was in a completely different kind of place, because he had no emotion when he did that shit. And I was like, whoa, I am not in regular society anymore. And so I went through the next parts of it, graduated, you know, made it out, and I was a completely different person. And then I went to go tell my friend, like, yo, this was crazy, like this and that. And come to find out, he died. The same one who invited me in.
Wow.
And so I felt alone. And, you know, I was communicating with the lady that had took me in. Her name is Sandra. And I don't know if she told my mom or whoever, maybe my aunts, because I did post it on Facebook, whatever, or whatever was back then, MySpace maybe. She randomly popped up at my graduation. Hadn't talked to her, hadn't had a relationship with her, none of that stuff. And I was literally getting ready to go in the car with somebody else to their house. And she popped up with my stepfather and my 2 little sisters. And I was like, I didn't even know how to react. Like, I felt angry, but the military had already broken me down so much in that time frame that I knew not to be disrespectful. And I knew not to let the emotions out like right there and deal with it in that kind of sense. And so that's, you know, we talked for maybe like 30, 45 minutes, and I still left with the other people, you know, and she was just like, "Oh, you know, it's good to see you." And like acted like nothing happened.
Ooh, and that's even worse.
And so that's how I got back into a relationship with my mom. And so fast forward now, you know, I start feeling this guilt, like I did something. And everything that I did, I tried to give back to her. So while I was in the military, I was paying her phone bill. I was paying her cable bill. I was doing a bunch of different stuff to basically say, "Hey, Mom, you know, like, I'm not the same kid, you know, whatever, I'm giving back towards you," all of that stuff. And, you know, what I hadn't accounted for yet, I won't even say that part yet, but I hadn't accounted for a part because I wasn't thinking this way yet. And so I'm just thinking like, okay, cool. I'm re-solidifying things with my mom and shit is good. And we go to, I get out the Marine Corps, whatever. I start my entrepreneurial journey and I start my first business. Shouldn't buy shit for me. And it was little products and services that you could switch. Like, it was network marketing. And so, toothpaste, fucking mouthwash, laundry detergent. She didn't buy shit.
What was that?
ACN.
ACN, okay. I did Melaleuca.
Okay, yeah. It was ACN. And I'm like, damn, she not supporting my business? You know, whatever, cool. Didn't stop me. But fast forward now to me going to school for arts and psychology. I'm starting to understand myself more. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to actually talk to her. I'm going to actually have a convo with her. And so I went to go start my first company, which is a production company. And I was excited on the phone with her. And this September 17th, 2018. I remember the day.
Dang.
Yep. And I'm like, yo, I'm about to start this production company. Like, I met this guy named Dan and he's cool and he got a camera and we're about to, you know, shoot some stuff or whatever. And she starts laughing. And so I stopped talking. I'm like, what happened? And she was like, no, nothing. Go ahead, go on. And so I'm excited again, telling more stuff. And she started laughing again. I'm like, yo, what are you laughing at? And she was like, what do you think you're going to get? You think you're going to get movies? You think you're going to get, you know, celebrities? You think you're going to be on TV? You think you're going to be this and that and whatever? Dang. And like completely like crushed my shit. And I was hurt. I was super hurt. And so I was like, yeah, I do think I'm going to get that. And then I hung up. And we've never talked since that day. Damn. And I proceeded to get feature films. We got Forbes magazine, Vibe magazine, Elements magazine. We got Hard Rock Stadium, Morgan Freeman, Bacardi, Denny's, a bunch of different shit. And why I bring all of this up is because I gave up that relationship because it wasn't two-dimensional. I wanted to create a relationship with her, but she still couldn't see past the person that I used to be.
Yeah.
And I talked to a lot of people about this, and some of them are like, oh man, just, you know, reconnect with her and try again. And I'm like, bro, sometimes even if they're family, you got to be able to let them go.
You got to be able to let them go because they will hold you back.
100%. And it's going to stop you from getting to the next level emotionally, mentally, but also financially.
In every area of your life, even your own personal relationships, whether it be friendships, romantic, business, it's going to hold you back because that is literally an anchor. It has you stuck. Yeah.
Now, the other side of that I find I'm dealing with more now, because everybody that knows me knows I'm super transparent about everything. You know, I got nothing to hide. It's my life. It's experience. And so the biggest motivation that made me the most successful, made me millions, was proving her wrong. And I got to a certain level a couple years ago where I didn't care about her opinion anymore. And so a piece of me kind of died.
Yes. You know, let's stay right there. I'm working with a client right now he's about to experience that, where his drive to building his business has been to prove his father wrong. So I would say we've been working for about a month now, maybe like, you know, every week for like the last month or month and a half. And as the sessions are going by, he told me in the last session, he said, man, I feel like what we're doing right now is going to hurt me in my business. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, because you're trying to make me forgive my father. I never mentioned anything about forgiving. I never said anything about that. But he can feel it.
Yeah.
And I was like, and when he said that, I smirked. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, because me being angry at my father has been the fuel for me to build my business. to where it has been, where it's gotten to. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And guess what? You know, a lot of successful business owners have used that same fuel.
Yeah.
But I'm explaining to him, it's like, you have to understand, just like you mentioned, I explained to him, like, you're experiencing the death of your old self. But it doesn't mean that you can't still be successful at what you're doing just because you're not going to have that fuel. I said, to be honest with you, and I like to keep things very practical. You go to the gas station, you have 87, 89, 93 grade.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you were using 89. I'm going to get you to use 93. You just don't recognize it yet because it's the unknown.
Yeah.
This is all you know. You know anger and resentment to be the fuel to build.
Yeah.
So you don't know what a carefree spirit feels like to build something. You don't know what it feels like. So of course, there's a bias there. You're automatically going to feel like, oh, I'm not going to be able to build my business. I said, you will be. Will it take a hit? Very possible, because you're learning a new version of yourself now.
Yeah.
But eventually you're going to get to a stage where you're no longer going to use anger and resentment as your fuel. And it's just going to be complete freedom, creativity, love, inspiration. That's going to be the fuel. We just got to work to get there. And he's like, oh man, I don't know. I said, just trust me. Let's just go on this journey. I'm here with you. Let's just go on it together. So as when you say that, that's real to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what would you say to individuals that deal with these kind of things early on, but then they get into realms of not only having kids themselves, but also being business owners? And what I mean by this realm is by relationships that the other person doesn't want to reciprocate.
When you say relationships, you talking about romantic relationships, or are you talking about this
no,
business?
like parental.
Oh, okay. So ask me that again.
And so when somebody in society that starts to have kids of their own or business, because business is like, you know, we treat that as like, that's our baby, that's our kid. You know, how do they navigate as a functioning human being when they don't have the release of reciprocation from the person or people that they really want it from?
This is where substances come into the picture. That's like the unhealthy way. Like, see, the thing is, as human beings, we are naturally wired to survive. So if you haven't gone to therapy, if you haven't really done work to really heal that part of yourself, the survival mechanisms are going to come and kick in, whether it be like being defensive, whether it be passive aggressive, but then you have like the substances, then you have like the drinking, the smoking, the sex, and all these different things. Like, this is why a lot of people are hooked on these things. And that's where we just turn to, because we're trying to survive.
Yeah.
We're trying to survive. We're trying to get by. So you just automatically go to those things. But then when you start actually doing the work and you start going to therapy and you start sitting with that darkness inside of you, when you start sitting with that shame and you start being face to face with the guilt that you've always felt, little by little, you start to develop the proper coping mechanisms to be able to abstain from the substances. And now you can be able to actually live a life that you actually, like, when I say live a life, I mean like inside yourself, you could actually feel proud of yourself. You can feel good. You can actually love yourself. You can feel good about yourself.
Now, there is a yang to that question, the dark side to that question, which is why do people, and I dealt with this for a period of time as well, where when I started losing that motivation from, you know, hating my mom and wanting to prove her wrong, I confided in what I thought was good to altruism. And I started helping people that were very similar to me. And I started like helping them way too much.
You became Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was trying to save the day. Why do we do that?
Well, because we think unconsciously that that's a way that we're going to heal ourselves. That's why we do it. Because a lot of us see ourselves in other people. Like, that's the reason why we connected at the event. Mm-hmm. There was something in me that you saw.
Yeah.
That's what we do. But a lot of times when we have unresolved issues, we start to connect with people who are not necessarily where we are, but where we used to be. Mm. And then now it's like this magnetic force that makes you feel like, oh, I got to do this for them. I got to do that for them. I got to do this, because you want to see them elevated. You want them to experience the thing that you didn't experience, like someone actually supporting you, someone actually caring about you, someone actually being empathetic towards you. Mm-hmm. Because in some weird way, we think that's actually us kind of like healing ourselves, which there is a component to that. Yes, but that's not the first thing you do. Mm-hmm. So that's why we just automatically just jump to that. And that's called codependency. When we talk about codependency in relationships, codependency has two parts. Mm-hmm. So there's the Superman, and then there's Lois Lane. Superman, always going to save the day. Puts on his cape, impenetrable. Someone that's in a codependent relationship, they play Superman because it makes them feel as if they have value. If they're not saving someone, they don't feel valuable. Mm. Then you have Lois Lane. Lois Lane just automatically knows anytime she's in trouble, Superman is going to save the day. Yep. Those are the takers. All right? You always know Superman is going to come. He's going to be present. He's going to make it happen. So Supermans end up always finding a Lois Lane. Yeah. And that could be in friendships, that could be in romantic relationships, that can be family relationships, that can be in business relationships. And in order for you to get away from that, you have to put yourself in a position where you have literally worked on yourself and feeling like, first recognizing like, well, why do I always feel as if I have to save the day? And normally, 9 times out of 10, the reason why we want to play Superman is because we have an abandonment issue. Like you had the mother wound. Yeah. That's an abandonment issue. So now you're trying to save everyone because you don't want people to feel what you feel. Mm. You don't want people to experience what you experience. But you're not recognizing that there is a much deeper work that needs to be done before you actually start helping people. Mm-hmm. You got to first help yourself. And by helping yourself, you got to be able to, like I like to call it, like the 30,000 foot view, where I teach my clients like, yeah, you had this issue with your mom, but let's look at it from a 30,000 foot view. Like we're in the air, in the sky. When you're in the sky, you can see, you have a broader picture. You can see more things. Yeah. So now we're going to just look at your mom. Tell me about how your mom grew up. Do you know how your mom grew up? Okay, tell me about that. You start seeing the dynamics. Okay, she didn't have a good relationship with her mom or her dad, and she had to go through this. She was a teenage mom. She was this and that, and she had so many different relationships. And it was like, oh, okay, that's the 30,000 foot view. Now we're starting to get a broader picture as to why your mom is the way that she is, because now it's going to start to create empathy for you towards her. And the point of that is, I don't want you to see her as your mom anymore. I want you to see her as a child. I want you to see her as a teenager so you can recognize, hey, there's more to the story of your mom than what you understand or know. And this is why she treated you the way that she treated you. This is where forgiveness starts to happen.
Yep. No, 100%. And you're literally spot on. That's how you know you're amazing at what you do, because you're spot on with the fact that where my next shift in life was how I got over that hump was I couldn't talk to her, so I talked to my dad. And in talking to my dad, I did exactly that. I found out who he was as a kid, and that helped me piece together her as a kid. He told me how they met and how, my grandmother tried to force him into marriage. And he's like, I'm just a kid. Like, I know I got her pregnant. I want to be there for the kid, but, he wasn't there for the first few years of my life because they pushed him out. 7-Day Adventists. They, they wanted him to get married. They didn't want us to have, kids out of wedlock and all of that stuff. And so, that gave me more perspective on that as well. And I did start to feel that empathy from my mom because she was forced into more of a decision or a something that wasn't definitely a choice. And then I started to regain memories of things that I had just shoved to the back of my head growing up. And I'm like, wait, I did see her argue with my stepfather a good amount of times. They did sleep isolated from each other a good amount of times. He did sleep downstairs. She did do her kind of thing and try to do like, you know, some entrepreneurial stuff. And he did more computer stuff. And they were two different human beings. And I started to understand that maybe if they weren't Seventh-day Adventists, they might have gotten a divorce. Because I understood they were two different people.
Yeah.
And I watched this for years. And because I had my own life going on at the time, I kind of just sideswiped it and pushed it to the side. And I just let it go. And so it turned into my show instead of understanding her show. And so now once I got over that in my life and my business, I started to be able to tell people like, yeah, I'm here to help people, but I'm not here to save everybody.
Yeah, you go. There's a difference between saving and supporting. And we could get that mixed up. When you haven't done your own healing work, you get it mixed up.
Yeah.
You think you're supporting, but you're actually trying to save. Yeah. And you know, I love what you just brought up because I want to be able to have the people truly understand what you're saying, the shift that you made. You stop posturing yourself as a victim. You were victimized, but you're not a victim. And once you started to recognize that you were just a character in your parents' story, and a lot that happened to you had less to do with you and more to do with their unresolved issues, that's when you started to have empathy. And that's when you can like really untie yourself from that weight of anger and resentment towards them.
100%. You know, I told some people like, you know, they would ask where my mom is, and I would tell them a very short version of the story. And I would tell them I'm not mad though. I said at a point in my life I used to, you know, want to buy her a house out of spite or do whatever out of spite and prove to her this and that, or send her a fat ass check that bounced or whatever. Like, you know, I wanted to do some spiteful shit just to make a point. And I was like, you know, I would still do that stuff, but I would not do it from a place of anger anymore. Like if I go on stage now, I would invite her out if she wanted to come. If she ever reached out to me, I would have a conversation, and I wouldn't bring up, you know, old stuff unless she brought it up. You know, I've enabled the ability to move forward. You know, I'm no longer mad at the version of herself she used to be. And, you know, that's what I'm dealing with my brothers with now, my father. And because I've been on this journey, you get excited and you start wanting to tell other people about the journey.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I've connected with my father now, who we were all mad at a certain point too. And I see him for a completely different human being. And now we have a great relationship. We talk, and, you know, we never grew up where it was like a I love you thing. And he actually says like, hey, I love you. Thanks for, you know, talking to me. Thanks for calling. And it feels different, man, because amazing. It's starting to really like hit me. And I'm like, damn. One of my parents loved me as an adult, you know, loved me for me. And I be trying to tell them because I see them going through some of the same shit. And they're like, nah, fuck Pops, man. I ain't talking to that nigga, bro. I ain't doing that shit, dog. And I'm like, bro, trust me. I know the version of us that knew him back then. I said, but he also got older and he's also doing things different. And he's not the same version of himself that he is, and neither are we. I said, so we should be able to transcend that. And, you know, I've gotten a few of my brothers to actually talk to him, and they're like, damn, I didn't know how much I needed that conversation.
Wow.
I didn't know how much I needed him to just text me.
Yeah.
See the name pop up, Dad or Pops or whatever. And, you know, that brings me into the next, you know, and the last topic of a category that unfortunately has two sides when it should all be one: mental health and mental health in the Black community. You know, we see different things in different communities that are more apparent than others, but for our community, we have a few issues that we can't get past. And a lot of people think it's financial. A lot of people think it's a lot of things, but most of the things that it is mental. And, the dollar in the Black community leaves the fastest out of all the communities.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The amount of crabs in a bucket mentality that we've implemented, and there's actually footage on this where crabs in a bucket don't actually pull each other down. They literally just don't know what's happening, and they grab on to whatever's closest to them. And so if they could be taught on that kind of level, they would probably help each other out. And that's the part of the story of the crabs in the bucket that people never get to. And they just say, oh, one person trying to make it out and everybody else pulling them down. And it's like, no, that's not true. Everybody's fucking lost. Yeah. And everybody's trying to just figure life out. And if we understood that as a community level, we could be advanced. And so in your words, what's the biggest difference as a community mentally that separates us from being able to monopolize things like, you can go to the hood and find a Chinese food store.
I know.
You can go to the hood and find, Ox, the deli where they make chopped cheeses and all of that stuff. You can go to the hood and you can find Latino stores, Mexican stores, tacos and all of that stuff. But you rarely go to their locations and find something from us. You don't find a Golden Crust. You don't find a Donna's. You don't find, Joy's Roti Shop. You don't find any of these things. And so what is the biggest difference mental wise between our community and other racist communities?
I think one of the main things is that we've just learned, not even learned, we've been taught not to trust each other. That's really the biggest thing. Because what we don't recognize is that something as simple as trust, when you distrust someone, that is a mental issue. We don't recognize that, because what happens when you don't trust someone, now what happens is that distrust, it creates a perception. Because if I don't trust you, I'm always going to think that you're out to get me. And now I'm going to start seeing things that are not there.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. Like, we've been taught not to trust each other. So that's why we always have internal beef within our community. That's why we can't come together and actually do something. And then also our egos, very, very fragile, because we think that if we're not the head of the snake, then we're irrelevant and we're inadequate. That is what I call a cognitive distortion. That's not true. But we just think so singularly. We think that, oh, well, I'm not the one that's making the most money. So, or I'm not the one that's calling the shots. We're not thinking as a collective. We're not thinking as a community. We're thinking singularly. That's the ego. Versus other communities, whether it be Asian, Hispanic, Caucasian, they're not worried about that stuff.
Yeah.
They're not worried about that at all. But we are. And I feel like that's one of the biggest issues where you talk about the differentiation between mental health in the Black community.
I have a friend, Asian guy. His name is Brian. And he blew my mind because I brought him on a podcast a couple years ago. And I think he was maybe like 24 or 25 at the time. And he opened his first restaurant. And I was like, oh yeah, how'd you do that? Because he just finished telling me he was broke. And he was like, oh, our neighbors helped. I said, what? Excuse me? He's like, yeah, my neighbor gave me and my parents the money. And I said, what do you mean by that? Like, explain that to me. Like, do you have a relationship with them? He was like, no, not really. But he says on our entire block, for the next maybe 7 or 8 houses, everybody's Asian, everybody knows each other, and everybody knows each other's specialties. And he says, in our household, they know we're the best chefs on the block. The other house have the best lawn service. The other house has the best laundromat. The other house, et cetera, et cetera. And so when, my parents told them what they want to do, everybody pitched in and gave them the money, and we opened our first restaurant. That first restaurant, they said he said it wasn't even any contracts or anything. We just made it profitable and paid him back with some interest. And then we used that. And now he opened 6 more in Miami.
Damn.
Yeah. He's only now like 27, 28 years old.
Wow.
And he has 6 restaurants in Miami, full building purchases, all of that stuff. And they're doing about 80 to 100K a month, and he did it before he even had established credit.
That's crazy.
And I'm just like mind blown.
But that social capital was real though.
Yes. And I'm like, damn, and that takes me back to a thought of, situations, because you did mention that, we have distrust for each other, but then we have situations. And so how do we deal with outside parties that try to attack the moments we work together? And these are situations like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Black Wall Street. Mm-hmm. And now I don't say that because that's surface level. Everybody could bring these up and be like, oh, we tried to do it and they tore it down. But what they don't do is the deeper research that Tulsa, Oklahoma, we actually rebuilt that. Mm-hmm. And it was us that messed it up the second time. Only Black people messed it up the second time. We did Black Wall Street again, and it was us that messed it up the second time. And so how do we deal with situations where we try to do things? There's a lot of situations going on even now where Bill Cosby, after 20 years, goes to jail for allegations. And it ironically starts to happen when he's trying to buy, what is it?
CBS?
NBC? CBS? Something like that.
Yeah.
And then Diddy, the same thing. He says, hey, I'm going to buy it instead.
Yeah.
And now he's allegations from 20 years ago and whatever. And so it's a loaded question. How do we deal as a community to where we try to do something that would benefit the collective, but we have other works at play?
Man, it's always going to be a challenge because we're the minority. This is not our country. So it's as if, which isn't fair, but it's as if we got to move seamlessly and perfectly. If not, the powers that be will do their thing.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. And honestly, I don't know an answer for that. I really don't know an answer for that, because it's just, like I said, this is not our country. So, if you don't move a certain way, you just know what's going to happen at the end. But I think at a more micro level, I think we have to really start focusing more on those things, like the restaurant and the gym, and so if I'm a therapist, I have a practice, I need to be connecting with Black lawyers, Black doctors, African American trainers, and we all just help one another out in that way at a micro level.
So now, where we've had pushback before with you saying that, should we be upset when, things like DEI programs have to roll out and everybody's mad when they get rid of DEI programs and people start hiring their own people?
Yeah.
What's good, everybody? Make sure you're following me for all things chef sales, from product drops to pop-ups. We have an amazing chili crisp getting ready to hit the market, as well as a couple of open pop-ups available to anybody. Stay tuned. A lot is happening.
Yeah, I don't see, the thing about it is I'm not really big on being upset of them removing the DEI. I'm not really upset at that, because we don't recognize that within our own community we have a lot. We're not leveraging what we have, but we're looking. It's like honestly, it's kind of like we're looking for handouts.
Yeah.
But we have a lot within our community. But again, it goes back to that distrust. We're not really helping one another out, but we're focusing on what we're not being given or what's being taken away from us. Where, we have each other. We can build, just like the Asians build, just like the Caucasians build, just like the Hispanics. We could do the same thing. We can.
Nah, powerful, man. John, this was great.
It was
You had
amazing.
a lot of valid points, and I got to understand you more, your story more, how you think about things more. And to me, that's what solidifies like a relationship with somebody, is being able to understand who they are from the inside first.
Yeah.
Not what you show me, not what you make, not what you post on your social media,
Yeah.
but how you became the way you are. And so, on a leaving note, for men, especially Black men, if they wanted to get into therapy, if they wanted to learn how to communicate that, hey, I need help, there's certain things that I want to get over, how can they start that?
I think one of the first things that any man should do if you want to start that is, it may sound interesting, but you got to start writing things. Start journaling, because a lot of us, we may not be comfortable at first to actually speak to someone. And that's the thing I notice about men. Normally, men start going to therapy when their girl is going to leave them. That's normally, I normally see that. That's normally what it is. But even before it gets to that point, just learning how to start writing things out, because you want to be able to start the engine to building your emotional capacity and building your emotional literacy. So a lot of men don't necessarily know how they feel, because a lot of us been disconnected from our bodies and our emotions our entire lives. So I always tell them, hey, look, get the feelings wheel. Go on Google feelings wheel. You'll see all the feelings there. And then now, from those feelings that you see, start writing out how you feel. That's going to start it for you, right? You can get comfortable. And then social media, like, start following pages. There's so many pages of therapists, Black male therapists, YouTube channels, all these. Just start diving into that stuff. Start to become familiar with those things, because as you become familiar with those things, you're going to start to become familiar with what's going on inside of yourself.
Yeah.
But then the next step will always have to be, you have to see a therapist, because you can only do so much work on yourself by yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
Nah, gems, man. If the people wanted to connect with you, find out more about you, learn about your services and everything, where could they do that at?
They can hit me up on Instagram, John the Giant, and my website, johnthegiant.com.
Perfect, man. This was another amazing episode of Attractive Mindset. I'm your host, Moneybag Rich. And at the end of the day, we always say, we look good, we live good. Life is good. Talk to us, we talk back, and we are out.